So in this video right here, I'd like to review the solving two-step inequalities homework that you guys completed on pages 14 and 15. You did this in class. This is not necessarily something that was assigned for homework, even though it was tagged as a homework on the title of the worksheet. I'm just going to quickly go through these. You'll notice that the work is already done for all of these, and I'm just going to be kind of talking and reviewing some things. Please make sure that you erase and fix any mistakes that you made on pages 14 and 15's homework. For number 1, we add 3 to both sides and it cancels out that constant. And then our next step is going to be, after we add 3 to 15, we're going to divide both sides by the 6. Since it's not a -6, we don't need to worry about flipping our symbol. We have an open circle on the 3, and we're going to shade to the right. N is greater than 3. For number 2, first step, we're going to subtract 4 on both sides. That's going to cancel out the constant. And careful, folks, we still have a negative in front of the x. We have a -3 as our coefficient. So because we divided both sides here by this -3, that's going to cancel out. But we will need to flip the symbol, and x is going to be less than or equal to the -7. So we're going to have a closed circle here on -7 when you shade it in, and we're going back to the left for less than. For number 3, our first step was to add 4 to both sides, and that canceled out the constant. Then we have -8 plus 4 is -4. Our next step is going to be to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of the denominator, and y is now less than or equal to the -8. Notice we did not flip the symbol because we did not multiply both sides by a -2. It was just a regular 2. Now we're going to have an open circle on the -8, and we're going to shade this way for less than. Careful with the negative number lines compared to the positives. Just make sure with the negatives that if you were to take a picture of -7 on the number line, -6 and -5 are on this side. If you were to take a picture of -8 on the number line, -9 and -10 are over here on this side. Just be careful with your number lines. Now for number 4, we will flip this symbol. First thing we're going to do, though, is subtract the 5 to get rid of the constant on both sides. And over here we have same sign, add and keep. So the -10 minus the 5 is a -15. Now this negative out in front, we're going to put it with the denominator. So our next step is going to be to multiply both sides by a -3. Because we multiplied both sides right there by a negative number, we will flip the symbol, and we're going to turn it around. We're going to have m is less than or equal to the 45, and we're going to have a closed circle on the 45, and we'll shade this way. And for the last problem here on page 14, to get rid of that denominator first, we're going to multiply both sides by the 4 so it cancels out. And we have a -9 plus a left over. On this side, 7 times 4 is 28. Now, we're going to add the 9 to both sides. 28 plus 9 is 37. We don't need to worry about flipping our symbol. So when we graph, we're going to have an open circle on 37, and we're going to shade this way. Now let's flip over to page 15 to fix and review any mistakes you might have made here. So at the top of page 15, we're on number 6 now. First thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by this 12 to get rid of it. And on this side, 12 times -3 is -36. It wasn't a negative number, so I did not flip the symbol. V minus 2 is what I have left over here. And when I add 2 to both sides, it's going to cancel out the constant right here. And when I add 2 right there to -36, I get -34. Now I don't need to flip the symbol for this problem because we didn't multiply or divide by a negative, but when I rewrite it for the V to come first so that we shade it, the alligator still needs to eat the -34. And then you can see over here on the number line, we have a closed circle on the -34, and we shaded back to the left. For number 7, we have a constant that is a fraction. All you have to do is make that fraction a decimal. And now 2x plus 0.5, we're going to subtract the 0.5 on both sides. 9 minus 0.5 is 850. And when you take 8.5 and divide it by the 2, we're going to get 4.25. All right? Notice I did not flip the symbol from the beginning of the problem to the end. I didn't flip the symbol because there was no multiplying or dividing by a negative involved. On the number line over here, I have a 4, a 5, and a 6. And along the way, I have the 1/4, 2/4, and 3/4. So right there, we can plot a point exactly on the 4.25 and shade to the right. Now your number line for this one might look a little bit different. Your number line, for example, you might have a 4 in the middle, and then a 5 right here, and then 3 would be right here on your number line. and then 4.25. You'd kind of estimate it about right there, and then shade to the right. You can also do that, folks. Either one of those number lines are acceptable. They both show 4.25 or more. Now in this section, it was going back here to just solving one steps with some fractions. Here for number 8, if you have y plus 2/3, you're going to subtract 2/3 on both sides. Now this one, for the same sign, add and keep, it's actually really easy. 3 plus 2/3 would be 3 and 2/3. Okay? In the calculator, what you might have done though, is you might have taken that 2/3 and divided the 2 by 3 to get this in the calculator. Now, since we're supposed to be subtracting that on both sides, you can make it negative. That is me now making this 2/3 negative. And now I'm going to hit minus 3. And right there you can see we get the negative 3.666666 repeating, which is the negative 3 and 2/3. On the number line, careful, notice that I have a negative 2, negative 3, and a negative 4 with the thirds along the way. And we're going to take this negative 3 now and move back to negative 3 and 2/3 right there. And we're going to have a closed circle, and we're going to shade back for less than or equal to. For number 9, all you have to do is add 1/2 to both sides. So you could take your calculator, punch in the 7, make it negative, and now just add the 0.5. And there's the negative 6.5 that I got on my worksheet. So now we're going to shade y as greater than a negative 6.5. But we've got to be extremely careful here, folks, with our number line. So here I've got negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, and negative 8. And negative 6.5 would be halfway between negative 6 and negative 7 right here. It's going to be halfway between these two, not this way. So here's negative 6, here's the negative 6.5, there's my open circle halfway through. And we're going to shade greater than, so we're going to shade to the right this way. That takes care of those. And down here for the bottom of your homework, for the select alls, what I've done is I've solved each of them, and then I've gone back and picked the ones that satisfy it. So for number 10 here, first I multiplied both sides by the 4, and that canceled out. And then my numerator, negative 1 plus n, is less than the negative 20. You just add 1 to both sides to cancel out that constant. And n is less than the negative 19. Over here, I picked the two that were less than. We do not pick the negative 19 because it's not or equal to. For number 11, same idea as these two right here for 8 and 9. All you've got to do is make this fraction a decimal and then do the opposite. If it's minus 0.75, we're going to add 0.75, and 8 plus 0.75 is 8.75. We don't need to flip the symbol. And now we're going to go through and pick anything over here that is smaller than 8.75, and these are the three answers. We don't pick 8.75 because it doesn't say or equal to. And finally here for the last one on page 15, we subtract the 0.5 to cancel out the constant. 12 minus 0.5 is 11.5. Now we have the 2y left over, and when we divide both sides by 2, the coefficient cancels out, and y is greater than or equal to 5.75. This time, because it does have that or equal to, we will pick the 5.75, and then of course we'll pick 50 because it's the only other number there that's bigger than 5.75. Folks, please make sure you've taken the time to correct anything that you missed here on page 15 or back on page 14. Thank you.